when in doubt. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mahmoud Ahmed. I'm a National Public Affairs Assistant Director for the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community USA. It's my pleasure and honor to be here this morning. We're here for two historic occasions. It is the official launch of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Caucus in the 114th Congress this morning, co-chaired by Representative Speer from California and Representative Poe from Texas. And we are very honored for them both to be here. Thank them for their exemplary leadership and passion for the community and its causes. And it is the causes that we are here about. That's the second thing we're here about this morning. I'm also welcoming the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association, which is an organization that is more than 75 years old, and it has 125 members from Oregon to Florida and all parts in between who are here this morning for one single unified purpose, and that is to fight for the rights of faith communities that are being persecuted by ISIS and its fellow travelers in the Middle East. But specifically, the way that they're doing that is they are supporting a bill that is pending in the House, H.R. 1658, that is specifically targeted at ensuring that we as the United States government are doing everything we can to protect those faith communities that are being persecuted by ISIS, the Yazidis that we're all familiar with, the Christians, and other communities that may not be as familiar to us. And these groups, ISIS and its fellow travelers, are active not only in the Middle East, but also across South Asia and Southeast Asia and other parts of the world. And we as Ahmadiyya Muslims are among the people who know full well the impact of this persecution. And everyone in this room is fully aware of that. And we as Ahmadiyya Muslims, this cause, the fight against persecution, is core to our DNA. It is what the Quran tells us to do, is to stand up and fight for the rights of those who are being persecuted, particularly when they're being persecuted on account of their faith. And so this morning, I think there are going to be 90 meetings with various members of Congress and their offices where this message is going to be conveyed. And this is a community that does community service every day of the year. Before I got up here, I was told it is a community that has helped to feed 1 million people, that has collected 30,000 bags of blood, that conducts various community service events throughout the year. And so, without further ado, let me please ask Representative Speer to address us. Thank you so much.
Mahmoud, thank you very much. It's wonderful to have you here. It's particularly wonderful for me to be one of the co-chairs of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Caucus. I have enjoyed my experience with so many of you and the work that you do, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Congressman Ted Poe as my co-chair of this caucus in the 114th Congress. Brian Bachman is here from the Office of International Religious Freedom at the State Department. We welcome you. I also would like to welcome Judy Gollop, who is here from the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. They just issued a report yesterday, which is online, that if you haven't seen it, you should look at, that focuses on the persecution in Pakistan and India in particular for those who practice their religions and continue to be persecuted. We're also joined by the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society and the Shia Rights Watch. So I applaud your efforts, because raising awareness in Congress about the specific persecution and human rights violations that occur to the Ahmadiyya community around the world is critical, as it is for all the various groups that are persecuted because of their religious affiliation. We have, as I understand, between 125 and 150 youth activists who will be here today, and we'll be having meetings with many of my congressional colleagues and their staff. I want to thank you for doing so. Education is key. Members of Congress must understand the critical interests that you as Ahmadiyyans have, the persecution that you witness for your family members and relatives, particularly in Pakistan, but in other countries as well. And I want to also applaud the youth campaign, which is Stop the Crisis. Your efforts to denounce and stop radicalization of Muslim young women and men is deeply appreciated by all of us in this country. H.R. 1568, which I'm a co-sponsor of, that protects religious minorities who are persecuted by ISIS, is one that I don't think any of us can dispute, and certainly having your support for it and lobbying for it is very important as well. A few years ago, I had the great privilege of meeting His Holiness in one of the suburbs of Maryland, and I was truly taken by the strength and power of his presence and by his message. We should also take a few minutes to recall that as Americans, we treasure the Bill of Rights, and particularly the amendment that protects religious freedom. It's not good enough to just protect religious freedom here. We have to be willing to speak out for religious freedom around the world. And the religious intolerance that we see worldwide today is frightening. And it then foments, I think, some of the militaristic actions that we have seen by some and that we must put down. Excuse me. I ached when I heard about so many of the Ahmadiyyans who, after having worshipped at their mosque, were gunned down in Pakistan, and how we could really, frankly, stand by and not take greater action to suppress it. So I want to applaud you. So despite the difficulties that you have, you continue to speak about peace. You continue to speak about restraint. You continue to show by your actions and not just your words, your commitment to this country, your commitment to education, your commitment to peace. In the 113th Congress, we had, as this caucus was created, had 4 briefings and press conferences to educate members of Congress, their staff, and other government officials. We are going to be doing that again in this Congress, and we will be working with you to create those forums. I was pleased to be part of your blood drive and have for a number of years. And as Mahmoud had said, you have now generated over 36,000 pints of blood that have the effect of saving 90,000 lives across this country. And you do this around 9/11 every year. You will be doing it again this year, and I will be proud to participate with you and have my blood drawn to serve in this campaign. As I understand it, this year's blood drive will be again on September 11th, and it will be in the Rayburn House Office Building foyer, so count me in. As the 114th Congress begins, let me say your involvement is critical to understanding and to peace, and I can't begin to express my appreciation for how you turn words into actions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. Your leadership is really appreciated, and thank you so much for highlighting the Stop the Crisis campaign, which has been going on for 6 months, and I think we've had over 30 events with several thousand attendees, and I think it really has been well received as an educational tool. And as you said, I think education is the #1 thing that we can do to prevent this from happening not only abroad, but also increasingly as we see at home to prevent the radicalization of our own youth. With that, Congressman Poe, please join us.
Howdy. I'm from Texas. I'm Ted Poe, and I am proud to be the new co-chair of this caucus, serving with Jackie Spear from California. I replaced Frank Wolf, who was a great advocate for religious freedom for this caucus and for all religious minorities throughout the world. Congresswoman Spear said something that I want to re-emphasize. In our Constitution, the First Amendment and the first right in the First Amendment says that there will be religious freedom in the United States. It's not by accident that the First Amendment and the first of the 5 rights in the First Amendment talk about religious freedom. And our forefathers were quite wise because they didn't just say, as Congresswoman Jackie Spear mentioned, that you have the right to believe what you want to. You have, as an American citizen, and the constitutional right of free exercise of your religion. Free exercise is the practice of your religion, as Congresswoman Spear mentioned. And I am a great believer in religious liberty, as you are. And different folks throughout the world are persecuted here and abroad for what they believe and practice religiously. And one of our goals as members of this caucus, and really I think Congress, and as a community, is to stop that. It's to stop religious persecution. Many Americans have not heard much about the Ahmadiyya community. Yet we have a community, Islamic group that believes in the values of peace and forgiveness and sympathy for all people. We are in a world where every day we hear about this terrorist group, ISIS. We hear about Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda, and many, many other groups who kill other folks who don't agree with them. And that is why this organization, this group, this community, the Ahmadiyya community, is persecuted because they don't agree. You don't agree. You have a religious belief and you want to practice that religious belief, and because some terrorist groups don't agree, you're persecuted. And it's not just terrorist groups, it's governments. As Congresswoman Jackie Spear mentioned, Pakistan is one of them. The Ahmadiyya community in Pakistan has been attacked. It's a minority. It's not the majority of the people, but it's a minority community. And the government has allowed persecution of this community. They politically, publicly deny any involvement, but they allow these homicides to occur. And of course, we're all familiar with the one in 2010 where Islamic militants used guns, grenades, suicide bombs to attack Ahmadiyya Mosque in Pakistan. 94 Ahmadiyya members of the community were killed, murdered. Why? Because of their religious belief. And Americans and others throughout the world need to understand that Muslim religion has different groups that believe different things under the banner of being a Muslim. Just like in the Christian community, Christians believe different things under the banner of being a Christian. And here we have a situation where radical Islamic individuals attack and kill a Muslim community and destroy their temples or destroy their mosque. I don't believe the Pakistani government has done enough to protect the community, Ahmadiyya community in Pakistan, but they're not alone in allowing persecution. All of you here know of the list of countries throughout the world. Indonesia is another one. In Indonesia, hundreds of mainstream Muslims surrounded the Ahmadiyya household in February 2011, beat 3 people to death. Why? Because they were different, because they believed something religiously different than the attackers. Footage of this is available on the internet. Many of you have probably already seen it. But if you see the media, you'll see that policemen looked on while this occurred. Governments have the obligation, the moral obligation, because religious liberty is a human right and it's an inalienable right. Governments have the obligation to protect religious communities from being attacked because their religion is different than someone else's. We have the belief, I have the belief, you have the belief, that all religions should be respected and no one should be attacked because their religion is different than someone else's. Pakistan, Indonesia, Bangladesh is another one where Islamic groups have demanded that Ahmadis be officially declared as infidels. Are you kidding me? The government's saying this? Makes no sense to me. But we have that persecution as well. We move across the globe a little bit to India, where Ahmadis are not permitted by Muslim leaders of other sects to sit on the All India Muslim Personal Law Board. Now, isn't that ironic? The All Muslim Board doesn't allow all Muslims to be on the board, including the Ahmadis. So we can find that the persecution is worldwide. And I commend you for your upholding your religious beliefs of peace as opposed to intolerance, as so many other groups throughout the world believe in. And as Congresswoman Spear has mentioned, all good groups and movements, if you will, we count on young people, the young folks, the youth, the vigor of youth, the hope of youth, and the passion of youth to be successful. The religious community is no different. And the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association has taken upon itself to wage a massive American awareness campaign to tackle and radicalization of other Muslims in the United States. I commend you for that. As a member of Congress, we commend you for that. We have that problem in the United States as other countries have, the radicalization of people to radicalization, I call it, to hate and to destroy. And that's what ISIS is trying to do, to radicalize Americans and others to hate and to destroy. And I commend the youth for standing up against that and, talking to other young people of your age to prevent that from occurring. The efforts like this are a great ways to expose the brutality of ISIS and to eliminate that philosophy that a lot of people throughout the world have, that all Muslims are the same. And with a broad swipe, blame all Muslims on the conduct of a radical group of Muslims, trying to make the difference. And I appreciate that. I think it's being successful. And of course, the work that you do in 9/11, how important is that? 9/11, showing that need to help folks that need that life, the life that's in blood, and you collecting that blood. Commend you for that. That community service is wonderful. And then, of course, being here on the Hill. It makes a difference. When you go from office to office, member to member, Republican, Democrat, someone from California, someone from Texas, and even New York, go, door to door, talking to all of those about what you do. I commend you for that. So I'm getting the look that I have talked too long. This was not supposed to be a speech. It was supposed to be a short little press comment. But I admire what you do, and it's a great honor to serve on this caucus with the leader of the caucus, Congresswoman Spear from California. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Judge Poe. That was very inspiring. You hit the nail on the head, I think, and I'm sort of amazed, I have to say, just off the cuff, at the depth and breadth of your knowledge on the issue. There are things that you probably said in there that I had to be reminded of. So that was pretty cool. With that, I think we are going to wrap up with remarks from our National Vice President of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association, Basir Rodney.
Good morning. I'm here representing our president, who is on his way but has been delayed. So I begin with the a short prayer. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Amma ba'du fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I testify that there is none worthy of worship except Allah, that He is one and has no partner. And I also bear witness that His Prophet Muhammad is His servant and messenger. The Honorable Congresswoman Jackie Spear, good to see you again. Honorable Congressman Ted Poe, thank you very much for your support and ongoing support of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, and for leading the Ahmadiyya Muslim Caucus in this 114th session of Congress. Dear guests and friends of our community, I greet you with the universal greeting of peace. Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. It is with a profound sense of humility and gratitude to God that we, the representatives of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association, gather here today at our nation's capital to launch the Ahmadiyya Muslim Caucus. We are happy to see that many people, such as yourselves, support the effort to raise the issue of religious freedom and are hopeful of the change that we can make together. Yet this is also a somber and seminal moment, because as we speak, the forces of ISIS have disrupted the lives of Muslims and non-Muslims in a large region of territory between Iraq and Syria. Their actions have directly and indirectly led to the torture and death of countless people. And that, of course, does not include the fact that much of their efforts have transcended those areas and are reaching our communities here in the United States and in Europe. Approximately a year ago, we, the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association, launched a nationwide initiative called Stop the Crisis, and we launched that here in our nation's capital. Since then, we have taken this message of peace and anti-radicalization throughout our community at large and across the length and breadth of this great nation. We have held more than 30 Stop the Crisis events on college campuses. We have held them at libraries and other public fora across the country. We have held Stop the Crisis social media events, writing campaigns, and other events both locally and nationally. We most recently visited with our leader, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. Some 200 of us went to London to visit this Khalifa of Islam and to seek his guidance directly about the efforts we can make to reduce radicalization of disaffected youth. Today we have another opportunity to stand up against the forces of destruction and aggression by offering our unyielding support for all refugees who have fled ISIS's grip. We ask our congressional representatives to adopt House Resolution H.R. 1568, Congresswoman Spear herself has co-sponsored, that is sponsored by Representative Vargas. It calls for the protection of religious minorities that have been persecuted by ISIS. It is an important step toward granting freedom to victims of brutality, and we support all efforts towards the universal protection of freedom of conscience. We ask also that our congressional representatives stand with us by joining this caucus and by helping to promote the fact that we support minority communities of Yazidis, Christians, Shia, and other persecuted religious groups across the world. The Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association will not relax or stop the crisis initiative until our Christian, Yazidi, and other Muslim and non-Muslim brothers and sisters find peace away from the attacks of these extremists. We will not stop our campaign of conscience as long as groups like ISIS and their perverse activities exist. With the passage of this resolution, we have the ability to expedite the migration requests of these minorities who have fled the hatred and violence of extreme groups. Our belief that the rights and property of Christians and others should be protected are not based on revisionist or modern or moderate interpretations of Islam. This is the teaching that is enshrined in the original Quranic message that was brought to us by the Prophet Muhammad of Arabia in the 7th century. The Holy Quran says explicitly, and worship Allah and associate not with Him, and show kindness to parents, and to kindred, and to orphans, and to the needy, and to the neighbor that is a kinsman, and the neighbor that is a stranger, and the companion by your side, and the wayfarer, and those whom your right hands possess. Surely Allah loves not the proud nor the boastful. So here the Holy Quran unequivocally says that we should stand in support of all people, whether we know them or we do not know them. The Holy Prophet Muhammad himself provided a charter of freedom written in Medina that protected the rights of Christians. He made one pact with a group of Christians in a monastery that he said this pact should remain till the end of days, not just for the Muslims who are with me today in Mecca, but for the Muslims who are to come in the future. So it is that belief that we hold that the freedom of conscience is protected for all times, not just for the Prophet in his time or for minority groups or special groups today. It is the same protection that we, the 120 Muslim youth, come to the capital to ask, to extend to persecuted groups who have been violently dispossessed, tortured, and killed by ISIS. I end by saying that we stand with our fellow Christian and Yazidi brothers and other groups that we are unaware of who have met this kind of persecution, and we will stand with them in peace and in justice. Please know that through the compelling leadership of the Caliph of Islam, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, we American Ahmadi Muslims will not sit idly by while ISIS perverts the name of Islam. We have been and will continue to be on the front lines of fighting militant perversions of Islam. The DNA of our community is reviving Islam's peaceful teachings by serving all humanity and fighting injustice with education. We will not rest until the universal human right of religious freedom exists for all people. And we make the request that all join us in this struggle, as is the context for our great nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. One minor correction for the whoever in the press is taking notes. I think he may have inadvertently said Mirza Ghulam. He meant to say Mirza Masroor, who is the current leader of our community. So if you're taking notes, I think that that is probably all we have for this morning. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming.